Hello friends, thanks for joining me, Miss Annie again. So today we are going to be talking about conflict. Okay, so tell me what you believe conflict is. Sometimes we think that conflict is like an argument or a fight. A conflict can definitely cause an argument or a fight, but that's not what a conflict is. A conflict is actually just differences or disagreement. And I want you to kind of understand conflict a little bit. So is conflict good or is it bad? So conflict is neither. Conflict just happens. They are part of life, and it just depends on what choices we make if it's going to be good or bad. So when conflict gets worse, we say it escalates. When conflict gets better, we say it de-escalates. So there are some rules with or expectations with solving conflict. So there's 5 of them. The first one is we find out what the problem is. When we start having a conflict and we start to maybe have the emotions of anger or frustration or confusion, that's a good indicator that we need to stop and pause and think about what the problem is. Second, we attack the problem, not the person. So when we find out what the problem is, we need to figure out what makes that problem a problem, and we don't go attacking the person. So if we're frustrated about how straight something is and someone is helping us, we don't attack them and start belittling them and being mean to them. We say, hey, I don't like that it's not straight and it looks like this. Can we fix it together? So that would be attacking the problem versus attacking the person. The third one is we need to listen to one another. When we do not listen to one another, are we going to ever solve any problems? No, we're not. So we need to remember to listen with our ears and not with our mouths. 4, we care about each other's feelings. So we need to make sure that we understand each other and how one another is feeling. So if someone is upset that maybe a shelf is crooked, then we need to listen to them and understand why. Maybe it's not a big deal to us and we are fine with a crooked shelf, but we need to understand why that other person might not like having a crooked shelf. Number 5, we are responsible for what we say and do. So this is one of the biggest areas that we can learn from for ourselves and from others. So this is where we stop and pause and we think about what we want to say and we think about what we want to do to solve the problem instead of getting on the defense and attacking, because that never solves anything. So what we really want to do is stop, listen, think about what the other person is saying, think about how you're feeling, think about how the other person is feeling, and then go from there on making steps to solving the problem. Okay, so what we are going to be doing today is we're going to be reading The Zacks by Dr. Seuss. This is a wonderful story about two different Zacks and their want for pretty much the same thing. So while I'm reading it, following along, notice if the Zacks are following or not following the rules. And then we'll kind of discuss it a little bit, okay? So here we go. So, The Zacks by Dr. Seuss. One day, making tracks in the prairie of Prax, came a north-going Zacks and a south-going Zacks. And it happened that both of them came to a place where they bumped. There they stood, foot to foot, face to face. "Look here now," the north-going Zack said. "I say, you are blocking my path. You are right in my way. I'm a north-going Zack, and I always go north. Get out of my way now, and let me go forth." "Who's in whose way?" snapped the south-going Zax. "I always go south, making south-going tracks. So you are in my way, and I ask you to move and let me go south in my south-going groove." Then the north-going Zax puffed his chest up with pride. "I never," he said, "take a step to one side, and I'll prove to you that I won't change my ways if I have to keep standing here 59 days. "And I'll prove to you," yelled the south-going Zax, "that I can stand here in the prairie of Prax for 59 years, for I live by a rule that I learned as a boy back in south-going school. Never budge, that's my rule, never budge in the least, not an inch to the west, not an inch to the east. I'll stay here not budging. I can and I will, if it makes you and me and the whole wide world stand still." Well, of course the world didn't stand still. The world grew. In a couple of years, the new highway came through, and they built it right over those two stubborn Zacks and left them there standing, unbudged in their tracks. The end. Isn't that just the strangest ending to a story? What did each of the Zacks want? What was the conflict? Did they get what they wanted? What made the conflict worse? Which rules didn't the Zacks follow? How could following the rules have helped? So, going through our questions, I hope you guys had a lot of great answers to these questions. If you do, just comment below and let me know them, because that would be wonderful. So the first one, what did each of the Zacks want? They wanted to continue going in their own path, right? They wanted the other Zacks to move over so they could keep going in their tracks. What was the conflict? Well, they bumped into each other, didn't they? And they weren't budging or moving for one another. Did they get what they wanted? Now this one can be kind of tricky. So neither one of them are budging. Neither one of them have been able to move. And they've been there for years, just standing there. So did either one of them get what they wanted? No, they didn't. What made the conflict worse? What made the conflict worse? They weren't listening to one another. They weren't trying to solve their problem. They decided to be stubborn and not move, and they didn't solve anything. Nothing was resolved. Which rules didn't the Zacks follow? Remember, there's 5 rules. We find out what the problem is. We attack the problem, not the person. We listen to each other. We care about each other's feelings, and we are responsible for what we say and do. I would say they did not follow any of these 5 rules whatsoever. How could following the rules have helped? There's an array of different answers, and there is no wrong answer here. They could have listened to one another. They could have solved the problem, like I said earlier. They could have attacked the problem versus attacking each other, and then being able to help one another. You know what I mean? So, what I would like for you to do this month is really focus on when you have a conflict. Maybe you're fighting with a sibling, or maybe you're having an argument with a parent. You can take a breather, stop for a moment, maybe even write out what's going on so that you understand your side of the problem. Bring it back to that person and see if they have a different outlook on it, and see what you both can do to problem solve and figure out that problem and resolve it. So that's my takeaway for you today. And remember to be strong, be brave, and be kind. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.